What's up, y'all? So this video, I'm gonna explain the Talkbox, talking about basically every aspect of it. I've had a lot of people ask me how to Talkbox, how you make it happen, how you practice it, what tone you use, all that kind of stuff. I've had a lot of students ask me to give them lessons on it, and I just felt like it'd be easier to just make a video. Hopefully, it won't be too long. But I do want to talk about everything. So there's a lot of random videos throughout the internet where you'll see people talking about the specific tone you want to use. You'll see people talking about mouth technique. You'll see people talking about, just sort of random everything all over the place, but there's no video that has everything all in one. So that's kind of what inspired me to make this video. But yeah, I'm definitely by no means like, I wouldn't consider myself an exceptional talk boxer. I've been, playing it live at shows for like maybe a year, maybe a little less than a year, but it's a really cool instrument. And that's the one thing to keep in mind is it really is its own instrument. It's not the keyboards and it's not vocals. It's sort of both and neither at the same time. You do have to spend just as much time on this as you do on any instrument to get really good at it. And it is really hard, and you will spend a long time frustrated in trying to get better at it. So yeah, without further ado, let's talk about it.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you to see. I'm about to go, and then for me to stay, I got to be me.
So just so y'all know, we're going to basically run through. I got just like 4 little bullet points I want to hit. So we're going to start with what is the Talkbox. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because I'm assuming you already know. But secondly, I'm going to talk about technique. This is going to include your mouth and the keyboard technique. So there's slightly different things to talk about with both of those. Then we're going to talk about the tone that you want to use or the patch you want to use. And then lastly, we're going to talk about ways to practice the Talkbox and ways to get better at the Talkbox. So first and foremost, what is the Talkbox? It's really simple. The Talkbox is this pedal. I play the MXR Talkbox. I like it a lot. I've never played any other kind of Talkbox, but I like it a lot, and I know a lot of other people that play the MXR, and everybody that I know that plays it likes it. So yeah, that's what I play. It's real simple. There's a speaker inside of the pedal, and that speaker sends. Then there's this tube connected to the pedal, and the speaker sends the sound through the tube and out the end of the tube, and then the tube goes into your mouth, and you shape the sound with your mouth, basically.
Oh yeah. Ooh.
It's really not more complicated than that. It's pretty simple, but everything else is pretty complicated about the damn thing. So that leads me into the second bullet point, which is the technique that you're going to want to use. So first and foremost, we're going to talk about the technique that you want to use with your mouth. So what I would say is the first thing you got to do is you got to get used to this thing being in your mouth. It's like at first it's really uncomfortable. You're going to slobber all over it. You're going to get like spit all the way down it. I don't know if y'all can see, but there's actually water in mine. I just recently cleaned it the other day, and I was just too lazy to dry it all the way out. Probably should do that, but you do want to clean it every once in a while too, which is real simple. I just run super hot water through it and put some soap through it, and I don't know, maybe that's probably good enough. But yeah, you just want to get used to the thing being in your mouth. So when I have it in my mouth, it's about like maybe that far into my mouth. It's like 1.5 inches, and you do bite on it, right? My molars are biting along the length of the tube. You don't bite on it so hard that it clamps it down, or else you don't get any sound out of it. You also have to kind of learn to not cover up the hole with your tongue or with your cheek or anything like that. Definitely something that was hard for me at first. You kind of tend to want to, or well, you don't want to, but you'll accidentally close up the hole and just immediately stop the sound. So yeah, so you kind of want to get used to those two things, just having in your mouth. Literally at some point, like just literally sitting at your keyboard and just playing along with stuff with the Talkbox rather than hearing the sound out of an amp or your keyboard or whatever. That's even pretty decent practice, just to, because you got to get used to it being in your mouth. It does, at least for me, it tended to gag, like kind of trigger my gag reflex at first. And you get used to it, but it does have to be in your mouth far enough to really get that sound out.
Oh yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So you do bite on it. Don't bite on it too hard, but you want to bite on it hard enough to actually keep it in your mouth. That's something also that you got to get used to, because it will fall out of your mouth. I mean, all the time when I play it at gigs, like I'm getting better with it, but you kind of gotta. It falls out. It tends to fall out of your mouth. So the second aspect of the technique is that what you're doing is you're making the only sounds you're making with your voice or with your mouth is you're making the percussive sounds that are required to speak in general. So for example, the word percussive is a good word to think about. So percussive has 4 different percussive elements to it. It has p, it also has k, it has s, and then it has v. So percussive, right? So practice that. Just practice it without even the talk box. Practice finding words or lyrics or whatever that you think are cool, and then practice saying those without actually speaking from your own personal voice box or whatever you call it. What do you call it? Vocal cords. That's what you call them. So yes, practice speaking without actually making any tone, just percussive stuff, and then take it to the talk box.
Percussive, oh yeah, it's so percussive.
You get the idea. So you're making the percussive sounds. So practice that when you're driving around in your car, whatever, doesn't really matter. The next thing you're gonna kind of want to experiment with, there's this technique that I've found where I kind of open up my throat and like drop down my throat a little bit. I don't exactly know how I'm doing it, but you just experiment with it. If I don't do it, it sounds like this.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you.
That's without me opening it up, and here's what it sounds like if I do.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you to see.
I don't know. It could be just personal preference. I think it gives the sound a lot more shape and it sounds nicer. But leave a comment if you think it sounds exactly the same, or leave a comment if you think the first one sounded better. Just let me know. So yeah, so the last thing you're going to really want to do as far as mouth technique is you actually want to over-exaggerate your words, especially when you're starting out. Over-exaggerate the percussive elements of it and over-exaggerate the actual mouth movements that you're making. It's going to feel like you're going to wonder why it doesn't sound right, and it's probably because you're not over-exaggerating enough. Like really, really.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you to see.
You want to really, really over-exaggerate everything you're doing. And it's going to feel weird. It feels really strange at first. That's really it. So yeah, pick a word, pick percussive, whatever you want to do, pick some word and start practicing those percussive elements of the word, and then take it to the talk box and try to make it. So now let's talk about the keyboard, and I'm not going to spend that much time on this because, you know, you're playing a keyboard, right? So it's not a whole lot more complicated than that. But what you do want to know is in general, you're going to be wanting to use a lot of grace notes. So like in that song, If You Want Me to Stay, literally the very first thing I do is I'm doing a grace note from G sharp to B flat.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today.
There's grace notes all over that. So just kind of like sliding into other notes. It's subtle, but it makes a big difference. So you want to use grace notes basically all over the place. Imagine, I mean, you're supposed to be singing, right? It's basically supposed to be a voice. So think about it like what do singers do? They do that kind of stuff. Okay, so then the other thing is the mod bar and the pitch shifter. As far as the modulation bar goes, like for me, more or less any time that I'm sustaining a note, I'm hitting the modulation bar.
Oh.
So this is without it. Here's with it. It just, when you're sustaining a note, to me, it just sounds sort of boring without the modulation. And it sounds a lot nicer with the modulation. On a lot of keyboards, you can change the speed of the modulation, and You can probably do it on this one, but I don't really know how, and I'm happy with that. Then the other thing is the pitch shifter. So a lot of times the pitch shifter is going to be a whole step. You can change it on a lot of keyboards as well, but on this keyboard, it's a whole step. And that's definitely a technique that I use a lot in solos. You know, it just is kind of a cool thing. I ripped it off of Zapp and Roger, which is where I ripped off a lot of stuff from. Yeah, so that's really about it as far as the technique on the keyboard goes. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time on it because a big part of it is just knowing how to play the keys. It helps. It helps. You don't have to be a good keyboard player. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. But yeah, so that's that. Third thing I want to talk about is the tone that you're going to use or the patch that you're going to use. This one was really what kind of inspired me to make the video because it took me damn forever to figure out what patch do I really want to use. And it's really, really simple. You just want to use a straight up sawtooth lead with no effects on it whatsoever. So turn your reverb all the way down, turn your delay all the way down, turn any type of effects you have all the way off, and it's just straight up sawtooth lead. The only thing I would say about it is you may want to increase the high end. So if you got resonance on your synth, like increase the resonance, toy around with the cutoff and the resonance, because your mouth is naturally going to be basically like a high pass filter. It's going to cut out a lot of the high end. And so you want to increase the high end on your keyboard to compensate for the fact that your mouth naturally cuts down a lot of that high end. So here's the tone without my voice on it. It sounds really, really harsh. At least to me, it sounds really harsh. But once you have your mouth on it, yeah, so you get the idea. That's really it for the tone. Increase the high end and turn off all the effects. If you want any effects, maybe some reverb, but do it after. Don't do it before the Talkbox. Do it after the microphone. So like if you turn up, here's what it sounds like if you have reverb on it. I mean, granted, that's the reverb really cranked, but here's the reverb at even more reasonable volume, or more reasonable amount.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today.
It's just, to me, it doesn't sound right. It muddies it up. It sounds bad. So just straight up sawtooth. No reverb, no delay, anything. Just straight up sawtooth. Increase the high end. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is how you actually go about practicing this thing to get better. Like I said before, I mean, if you play the keys, it's going to help you a lot. It's really going to help you. Knowing your scales is going to really help you. Maybe start with just your pentatonic scales if you hate scales, but learning your scales is going to make your life way, way, way easier. But I don't think you have to know your scales. I think you could actually I think you could not be a keyboard player at all and still get pretty good at Talkbox, because a lot of the really famous Talkbox songs are really simple. It's kind of like vocal melodies. It is vocal melodies. Vocal melodies are pretty simple a lot of times, especially really, really awesome famous ones. So for example, Zapp and Roger, I Want to Be Your Man.
I want to be your man. I want to be your man.
That's literally 3 notes. E, D, C. That's it. E, D, C, D.
E, D, C.
You get the idea. You don't have to be a great Talkboxer, but you are going to have to practice those riffs. If you want to learn a riff, you got to practice it a lot. So what I would say to practice this is just pick a really simple riff or a really simple word to start off with and really master that. So what I did, the first thing that I did that I thought sounded okay was just saying the word baby, which is one of those things that Talkboxers say all the time, and just like go down the pentatonic scale and just glissando your way into every note. So
baby, 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 baby.
So literally right there, all I'm doing is just straight up down the pentatonic scale. I'm going D sliding to E, B sliding to D, A sliding to B, G sliding to A, E sliding to G, and then D sliding to E. It's real simple.
Baby, 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 baby.
It's try that, toy around with that, and start with that, because baby is a good word too, because it's got that percussive nature. Baby.
Baby, 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 baby.
I'm just going. You get the idea. And then just slowly, you know, this is just like learning any instrument. Just set it at a point that you can actually handle, and then slowly increase the difficulty. So start with that, just straight up down the pentatonic scale, and then maybe move on to I Want to Be Your Man. That's a really easy one to move to. So again, like I said, it's E, D, C, and then back up to E.
I want to be your man.
Practice with that. Try that one. Do it slow. Start it slow.
I want to be your man.
Practice that. The first song that really taught me a lot about playing the Talkbox, there's two songs that really taught me a lot about playing the Talkbox. The first was a song by this guy, I think his name's Steve Swatkins. I don't know if that's his real name, but he has a YouTube channel. He doesn't post super often. I also follow him on Instagram. He's really awesome talkboxer and keyboard player, and he has this song called I Already Told You. And I don't really know much about the song. I don't really, to be honest, know that much about the guy or his music, but he has this song called I Already Told You.
I already told you, can't help myself from dreaming. I already told you, you get inside my head.
And it's a pretty sweet song. It's a really awesome song, actually. And so just learning other people's stuff. So that riff right there, that could be the next one you learn. And that's just got a lot of glissandos. I'm not going to go over every aspect of it. If people want, maybe I'll do a tutorial on how to play that song, because it's a great one to learn. And then the other song is, that you've already heard me play it a couple times today, is If You Want Me to Stay by Sly and the Family Stone. That's another really good one.
If you want me to stay, I'll be around today to be available for you to see. I'm about to go, and then you know, for me to stay, I gotta be me.
Just learning other people's songs. Start simple.
Baby, 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 baby.
Get a little more complicated.
I wanna be your man.
Get a little bit more complicated.
I already told you. I already told you.
Don't even worry about doing the whole song. Just literally do that one riff over and over and over again.
I already told you.
Just get that riff down, and then move on to the next one.
Can't help myself from dreaming. I already told you. Can't get inside my head.
You get the idea. Yeah, so I think that's about it. You know, I don't know if there's anything else I really want to say. I think that covers everything. What is the Talkbox? The technique that you want to use in terms of your mouth and in terms of the keyboard, the tone that you want to use, the patch you want to use, and then lastly, how to practice and actually get better at the Talkbox. So, you know, it's definitely, you know, it's its own instrument. I definitely want to say that. It is not a keyboard and it is not a voice. It is neither and also both at the same time. And you got to spend a lot of time just with this damn tube in your mouth, and you got to spend a lot of time practicing it to really get good at it. So, you know, good luck. If anybody has any questions, feel free to comment them, and I'll do my best to answer them. And yeah.